First game, a lot of optimism, I think, everywhere across the country right now. Very excited about the opportunities in front of us this year. Certainly, first game of the season brings out a lot of excitement for the fans. The night game at Spartan Stadium should be rocking and everything. Be an exciting time. Tulsa comes in with Phil Montgomery as the coach. It's his 5th year. He's got a history with Baylor. Played us in. He was the offensive coordinator in 2014. So there's that Baylor component. There's no question about that. It's his 5th year there, and I'm sure that they'll be ready to go. From a preparation standpoint, you go through all the way through camp, and you think you've got a lot of time, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're 3 days away from game time. So there's so much that goes into it. When you look at us in any first game situation, I think you want to make sure that you're playing fast, no unforced errors, especially in the special teams area, and ball security is so important in every football game, especially in the first football game. And we've tackled a lot throughout our history here, really, in practice, and you hope that pays dividends at this point in time. From a standpoint of personnel with Tulsa offensively, again, I think there's a Baylor component there, a lot of RPOs and things of that nature, but 2 outstanding running backs, both guys. One's got almost 900 yards last year, one almost 1,000. So they've been very productive running the football. Zach Smith, their quarterback, is a transfer from Baylor, and he sat out last year, so at Tulsa, so he's prepared to go. And Stokes, a wide receiver, is probably their number 2. Is probably their lead guy. Punter's an outstanding punter. Thomas Bennett, he averages 46 yards a punt. He's a Ray Guy finalist from last year, and I believe his father was an NFL punter, so he's been well schooled. Defensively, they're going to run a 3-3-5, so 5 defensive backs throughout. They'll drop guys down at times, and been very good against the pass. And we'll look to work towards it. Joe Gillespie has taken over as the defensive coordinator there, and Bill Young, longtime college football coach, retired in January, so we wish him the best in his history in the Big Ten at Ohio State. So 3 days out, excited to play, and I'll take some questions.
Mark, looking at the offensive line depth chart for you guys, Cole Jones is not there. Is there an injury long-term or anything other?
He struggled with his back here throughout preseason, so right now he's sort of on a day-to-day basis to see where he's at. But we do anticipate that he'll be able to play at some point, but he's had some time off here as of late.
So he won't play this week?
He won't play this week.
Mark, Connor, I believe, is the only, he's number 1 on your depth chart, running back. I'm just curious how you see that situation.
Pretty fluid. I see that running back situation very fluid. Guys are going to get opportunities, especially in the first game of the season. And Connor's had a good summer camp. Been impressed with really all of our running backs in the summer camp. They've adapted to some of the new things and been able to retain other things. So we're looking forward to seeing how they play.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Brandon Wright as well. I know he is the newest guy. You've probably seen the least of him. Is that a guy you'd expect to maybe try to get a couple opportunities here in September?
We'll see how the game flows. We'll see how he's doing.
Mark, you mentioned things you want to accomplish in the opener. Obviously, the offensive struggles last year. I mean, do you get a sense that those guys on that side of the ball, I don't know if you can say make a statement, but want to come out and, particularly Brian, and kind of move on from what last year was and try to do something positive and kind of step forward?
Yeah, the message to our football teams is game day, game time. I don't care if you bench 400 pounds and run a 4.5 and vertical 36 inches. I don't care if you've been all preseason All-American. I don't care if you had a tough year last year. It's time to get ready to play. So our mindset has got to be, let's go. And that's where we're at right now. That's the mindset that we're in, and that's where we're going with this. So we've got good players. We've got a lot of guys back with experience, and we should play fast and know exactly what we're doing and bring it on Friday night.
Mark, right here, I'm going to ask you a little more about that offensive line. Obviously, there's the shift change at left tackle. What did AJ do to kind of separate himself there once you knew Cole was going to play? And then I think you had some freshmen that have had good camps. Is there a chance any of those guys play early on?
Yeah, there's a chance. There's a chance that any one of our guys who are dressed going to play. But you know, we've worked with a lot of different guys in a lot of different situations up from an offensive line perspective around different positions. Our freshmen, those two freshmen are talented. You know, Devontae Dobbs, J.D. McClain, and Nick Samak have done a nice job, and they're working in there. So we'll see whether they play or not. But you know, for me to sit here and say they're definitely going to play, I'm not going to make that statement. But they're doing some good things.
What about
Got a
AJ?
couple other guys that are in the hunt as well.
What about AJ and what he's done?
He's been athletic. He's adapted well to the left tackle position, and he's a big, strong guy, and you know, almost 6'6", 300 pounds or so, and he's learned that position. But I think he could play across the board, probably any position with the exception of center.
Mark, traditionally, any changes you've made in the offseason, you don't like to show early. You like to maybe wait for Big Ten. But because it's been a revamping so much, is it put you in a juxtapose? How much do you want to show? How much do you don't?
I'm going to say what Coach Perlis has always said. You know, they all count one. You know, so 1-0 is 1-0 any way you cut it, and we're going to make sure that we do what we got to do to win a football game, and we're going to play. So we'll be who we are, and you know, obviously after the first game, you make some decisions and you move on from there personnel-wise or what you're doing, and there's always a sense of change as you go through the season, depending on everything that's going on. But football is a very fluid, I think, sport. You know, a lot of things going on, offensively, defensively, special teams, a lot of guys playing, a lot of different guys getting opportunities or getting nicked up along the way. So we can get ourselves ready to go. Looking forward to playing.
Mark, you mentioned that Baylor component and that, you know, Phil coached against you in the Cotton Bowl. How similar of a prep is this, particularly in terms of what they do like up front?
Well, 2014 has been some time, but they're going to be tempo offense. They're going to line up there. They may be running between 10 and 15 seconds of play at times. So you got to be prepared for that, which we've prepared for that very hard. We've played teams like that, you know, throughout. So, but I anticipate a lot of RPOs. They're going to try and run the football. They want to run. Everybody wants to run the football. I don't think there's anybody that says, "Hey, we don't want to run it." We've got to be able to do that, and then we also must be able to play the benders and the deep ball, the ball in the deep part of the field, and tackle well. We've seen that already in the first game of the season. So you know, you got to be able to tackle well.
Mark, what does Jalen Naylor bring to the punt return game?
You know, he's got great speed, he's got great hands back there. I think that, you know, he's an aggressive type player that, you know, will try and make something happen.
And along with that, Stewart back in the kick return game, what did you see from him? And do you plan on having both of those guys back there at once to maybe add some dimension to the return game?
Well, we're not going to talk about schematics, but, you know, I think Daryl's an outstanding football player, and he brings a dynamic to the kicking game as well. He's returned kicks and punts in the past, and we look for him to have a great year.
Coaches, as you get older in your career, what is the significance, or can you describe the feeling on opening night and what that means to you? I know when the ball's kicked off, you're just focusing on execution, but
Yeah.
taking the field with your team, what does that mean for you?
Well, I think every year, you know, it's interesting because I get a note from Brian Hoyer's father every single year, you know, about what this is all about, you know, opening day and being at Michigan State. And to be honest with you, I'm still humbled in that respect in terms of going out there on opening day and running out there. So even though we've been here 13 years, going on 13, you know, it's still the same type of feeling. You get ready to go, there's anxiety, there's emotion, there's excitement, want to make sure everything's right. But when the ball's kicked off, you'd be ready to go. And so that's what we're going to do collectively as a staff, as a football team, and me for myself. But it's still exciting. It's exciting to run out in Spartan Stadium. People wait all their lives to do that. So we'll take it.
Mark, as a follow-up to that, the night games are no longer a novelty, but do you sense an air of excitement when you open the season on a Friday night under the lights when it seems like everybody in town is going to the game?
Yeah, you know, I think every time you play at night, it brings back a little bit of the high school mentality that you had growing up, whether you're coaching or whether you're playing. It's just exciting, a little bit more exciting. I think that, you know, I don't know, we're just waiting. I just got a countdown clock in the locker room, you know, we're waiting. So we're trying to get through these 3 days, and but it is exciting, and should be very exciting for our fans as well.
Mark, Jim Calpone, SpartanMag.com. Tyler Higbee looks like he's back in the starting lineup. A few weeks ago you said he might not be back till late August. He must have come along earlier than expected. Can you talk about his progress?
Yeah, he's played pretty much throughout, you know, he got back after about a week of camp, so he's been involved and has played himself back into the thick of it, and he's played well. So, again, another guy's a fifth-year senior, and I'm looking to have a great year from him, and he's anticipating that as well.
Mark, I know you said you're still humbled about the fact you're here, but, and I know I've asked you about this before, and you said a lot of people are part of this, it's not just you, but when you see the name Duffy Doherty everywhere and know what he means to this program, and know that at some point this year, you probably become the winningest coach in this program, do you ever take a second and think about what you've accomplished in these first 12 years here at this program?
I think you take a second. We might have two. But, you know, I go back to what I've said before. I look at all the players that have come through here, made plays. It's some outstanding moments in that time. And that's, again, why we're trying to chase the moment. A lot of coaches, a lot of administrators, a lot of donors, a lot of different people that have been involved in this process. So I think that's what you get when you have continuity in the program. Then you have opportunities like this coming. So we came here with an opportunity to try and make a mark, and that's what we're trying to do. I think we've been very successful in this decade. From that standpoint, you know, I don't know whether the 8th winningest program in this decade or not, but we've been very prominent, I think, in this decade, and it's important to finish this decade in that way, in that fashion. So what I've always tried to do is just win one game at a time, collectively as a group. And I've always tried to push people in front and get them to move in one direction, and that's what you have to do. So I don't really think too much about it because I'm usually so busy with all the other things that goes with it. But I think it's a sense of accomplishment for a lot of people. It's not just one person. So that's the best thing I can say about it.
Mark, you mentioned about Tulsa's speed and how quickly they snap. This is one of those games you're going to need the depth on the defense. I guess when you look at those young guys behind the starters, you got a little bit younger in the 2D. How ready are they, and what things do you have to prepare them, especially for a tempo-based offense?
Well, you know, we talk a little bit about the fog of war. You know, everything's sort of planned out, and all of a sudden things hit and things change. There's a sense of confusion. So I do think that we have a lot of players back. I do also think there's going to be players out there playing a major role for the first time. So it's important that they come and they settle themselves and they stay, you know, cognizant of what's going on and have good direction. It's all about the control of their attention. You know, can they stay focused, or they're going to start thinking about the crowd or start thinking about all these things and not do their job. So the bottom line is do your job, do it fast, know what you're doing. And I think our players do know what they're doing, and they're poised to make an impact. And I think every one of our players want to make an impact out there. And, you know, the big key is, I think, don't be afraid. You know, keep pushing, push things forward. You're going to make mistakes, but make them full good.
Mark, you mentioned earlier with the offense, you guys are going to be who you are during the game. Without giving away scheme here, if I ask, what does that mean? Who are you guys offensively this year? What the look and feel?
Scheme.
Well, is the look and feel different? Are we going to notice noticeable differences?
It won't be in the tee.
Mark, you mentioned, talked about their offense a little bit in the backs. They return both their top 2 rushers, and you guys being the #1 rushing defense. You know, one of their guys says their weekly goal is 100 yards apiece, 5 yards of carry, and obviously it's not what your guys want to. Can you kind of you know, break down that matchup where your guys, what they want to accomplish and their strength offensively, obviously?
Yeah, we don't want to let people run the ball on us. You know, people have not been able to do that recently. We need to continue that trend, and again, it'll be a challenge. You know, There's certain things, you know, that go into this, you know, they run a draw, you know, they do a nice job with their draw game, on third down and things of that nature. You know, they've broken some out before. The inside zone, they run a lot of different running concepts. But I'd say inside zone, outside zone is prominent. But they've been successful, and we've got to see how it all shakes out. Be interesting to watch.
Mark, I was curious, what's one or maybe more things, I guess, that for all you guys did in camp that you just can't really learn or know in camp? What's something that you personally are looking forward to seeing how this unfolds in a real game setting? What would that be, I guess, that's still that big unknown for you?
Well, we've been productive in camp offensively, and we need to be productive in games. I don't think there's any big secret there. If you had to say, you know, it's the first game of the year. I mean, you got guys that have done tremendous things last year, on the defensive side of the ball in particular, and you've got some very productive players, but you're starting over, you're starting from scratch. So to me, it's always a little bit about, okay, who are we this year? Who are we? What are we going to become? Which direction are we going? How are things playing out? What young players are getting involved? There's a lot of things that you have to answer as you move forward in this early part of the season. And that's why we sort of break the season up in phases, and we've gone through first phase, that's August camp, and now we're going to our phase 2, which is these first 3 games. And we'll find out a lot about our football team in these first 3 games, so it's a focus for us.
Coach Montgomery talked about the inability to kind of prepare for you guys in terms of not knowing what the changes may or may not be, how things are going to maybe philosophically change. For you as a coach, first of all, have you had such a tightly guarded secret like this? And secondly, what are the, I guess, schematic edges from your standpoint to keeping everything under wraps?
What's the second part?
Just keeping everything under wraps. What are the benefits to that for you guys? Maybe
Well, I
beyond
think
the
everybody
obvious.
wants to try and keep something a little bit behind the curtain there so that people don't prepare for you, at least know what, because everything's about practicing for your opponent and trying to simulate what they do. That's usually the way things work, both sides of the ball and special teams. So you sort of, history is the best indicator of the future and things of that nature. So you want to try and guard against, those type of things, especially when you've made a couple changes. We're just trying to stay the course. And I don't think that come up here and talk about things before they happen is the way to go about it. So you just sort of do what we do.
Have you guys had any changes that you can remember that kind of kept this close to the vest?
I'm sure there's been one. I don't know. I guess Little Giants.
Mark over here. Ladarius Jefferson last year was a young player in a new position. Just curious what strides you've seen out of him this summer so far, and how challenging is that transition overall for a young player?
Yeah, Ladarius done a nice job. I think that as a running quarterback, which he was, there is a transition that you have to make moving to a running back position, especially blocking people and things of that nature. But he's a physical guy. He was an outstanding linebacker as well, so he'll put his pad on you. But I think he's had a great fall camp. I think Connor Hayward has as well, and Elijah Collins has as well. I've seen good things, and it takes time. These guys are all relatively young players. Connor's a junior, but he played the most last year. So these are young players, so you're waiting for them to bust out, but this is their opportunity to make some strides, and we're going to go from there. It'll be interesting to see how some of these other younger players play as well, and so they'll have their opportunities as we go.
Not looking for any details, but if not settled, Mark, are you concerned the Curtis Blackwell suit could become a distraction this season?
No, not at all.
Okay.
That's the last question. We're not going to end it on that one.
I got a couple more. At tight end, Matt Siebert looks like he's climbing the depth chart a little bit. I imagine tight end. Is that an area of concern with depth there? I see Noah Davis is not in there. How's the backup tight end situation at Siebert's climb?
Tight end situation is all 4 of those guys have played have played in this fall camp. I think that Trent Gillison's got a lot of ability. He's one of those young guys that will see the field really for the first time a lot. He played a little bit last year, was redshirted, so he's got a lot of ability. Dotson is an improved player. Noah Davis is a guy that has played for us in the past. Max Rosenthal's also a guy. So we got 5 guys there that are sort of fluid in there, depending on what we're doing and what personnel groupings we're doing.
Marcos, is there anything, you know, a lot of teams have mentioned, especially early in the season, matchups like this mention tempo as the equalizer against your guys' defense over the years. I'm just curious if there's anything, other than rotating multiple units quickly in practice, is there any kind of special magic or secret sauce that you've learned about defending that type of tempo and everything? Again, then so many people try to run it, and you know, through the Big Ten as well, I guess. But
Big Ten, yeah. I think that it's one thing to practice for it. I think it's another thing to play in the game. You have to get used to the tempo that you're getting in the game now. We have worked a lot against it. We've run 3 huddles at it, you know, with the stopwatch runner play every 10 seconds. So we've done things like that. We all have always done things like that to prepare for it. But ultimately, it's our level of conditioning. Okay, how are we in condition? And then, you know, the ability to sub in and out. I think that's pretty standard information for everybody. And but hey, if you don't get a first down in 3, you know, you're off the field in about 40 seconds, so that's not good either.
any other questions?
That's good. Thank you.